Okay, Sharon with the red solo cup. I see you.
Listen, it is time for the after party. It just got a little too good. We were professional. We were good the first time. Now let's just get into it, okay? I haven't, in full disclosure, I haven't eaten, and I will kill this broadcast if I start going off the rails. I haven't eaten, and I'm not going to tell you what's in this cup. We are live again with Tiffany McGhee of Stoc Savvy, and Tiffany was dropping jewels on us, and it was we didn't want to stop, right? So let's get into some of the stuff you talked about, Tiffany.
Yeah.
So I like what you said, and you didn't say it here, but I like what you said about purple, right? Yes. Now, purple, for everyone who doesn't know, and I'm gonna let you take it away, Tiffany. For people who don't know, Purple is a mattress company.
Yeah.
I didn't see in the ads, but I'm like, what's Purple? Then Tiffy peeked me to some stuff. Tiff, what did you tell me? And then what did you say on CNBC?
So first of all, cheers to the after party.
Cheers to the after party.
Hey. You know, the hair a little bit popping and like red lipstick for the after party. So what I like, so when I'm thinking about investments for my clients, particularly when it comes to individual stocks, and particularly in this like crazy time, I'm looking for stuff, you know, that's doing well during this time. And people call them like stay-at-home stocks, but I'm looking at what they did pre-COVID, what they've done during COVID, so I can make a decision about whether I think they're going to do well after. And so a company like Purple it came out, I think they IPO'd in initial public offering, went public in 2016. Don't quote me on that. But early on, they, or at least they came out or went public in 2016. So they started spending a lot of money on digital advertising, right? So in contrast to a company like Sleep Number, if you've been to a mall, you've been past a Sleep Number store, they came out years ago.
Right.
I have a Sleep Number.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So basically Sleep Number is about the experience. You go into the store, you lay on the bed, they do a little adjustment, and you get to determine whether it's the experience.
Yeah,
for sure. Purple was about the experience. Purple was about being able to buy something direct from their website online. And they put a lot of money into that. So I'm going to pull up Purple. So flash forward to...
let's just real quick. You talk about looking at it, right? Where exactly are you looking? Because, in our call, we just had a woman that said she doesn't have the confidence, right? So simply, where are you looking? What are you looking at? Like, where can people see this information?
So I'm a little bit unusual. So I have probably about 5 apps on my phone that can do this. You don't need 5.
Right.
If you have an investment account, like a Fidelity or something like that, you can download the app and you can just put in the ticker symbol or you can put in the name of the company. But you can also go, so right now I'm using CNBC.com. Those are my, I don't know if you can see it, but so CNBC.com, it actually says CNBC Picks. That's the list that I'm using. What I talk about CNBC where I'm following. You could use, you can literally go into your app store and search for stocks, and a million things will come up. A lot of them free.
There's one loaded on your iPhone automatically.
There is one loaded on your iPhone. Again, I like to get nerdy with it because I like the news of the different companies. So in addition to being able to look up the stock price of the company, and some like the other data, like what's the price, what's it's done. I like to look at things in the 5-day, 3-month, and year-to-date time periods. That's what I like right now. So, and most of them will do that. But CNBC is great for me. It gives me every single thing I want. It does cost. CNBC $20 a month. I'm not doing CNBC. I I'm not.
Of course, CNBC does.
but Yahoo Finance has a really good one.
Yeah, I'm saying there's so many. Like Yahoo Finance has a free one. Again, like the on the iPhone, one comes for free. So getting back to Purple, which I'm going to look at right now.
Listen, I mean, I'm one of those people who, all right, I have a cousin who's super into investing. Love my cousin. And we were talking about Netflix several years ago. I think it was probably at that time, maybe 100, like 100 something. And he was like,
to buy a share, $100
to buy a share. Yeah. So, yes, I'm sorry. Thank you, Tasha.
We just have to, expand our conversation to make sure that everybody's on the same page, right?
Listen, you're absolutely right. I want to say it was probably around 100 or so, or a share, 150 a share. So to buy a stock was like $100 some odd. I think I was in the process of just getting out of debt, just making sure I took care of my school loans, my car loans. I wanted that off my back. So I was like, yeah, I can't do that right now. What is Netflix trading at right now?
Right.
Insane.
Like 3,000? Like 3,000? Is that 3,000 or is that Amazon?
No, Amazon is 3,000.
Amazon is 3,000. What is Netflix trading at right now?
We'll look it up.
What I love about the app is to be able to get the, I live and die by my phone and notifications, right? And so I love it when it comes up on the top and like on your watch list, you can see like where they are, like up so many points.
495. I was standing in Disney World with my cousin Derek. He's like, yo, cuz, you gotta get on that. I was like, I know, but it's $100.
But listen, we're gonna be telling this same story in 5 years, right? So whatever it is right now, it's the holding pattern, right? That you talked about, Tiffany, right? If we do our research, and we just I was very surprised by, that women are better investors because we don't have the emotional connection to it,
right? Because
we got emotion connected to everything else, right? But for buying decisions, we're good at buying and holding.
Yeah, we are. We're good at sticking to a plan, and we're good at
sticking to a plan,
seeking out information, using our resources to make informed decisions, and not having like a quick trigger finger. And then that's where people get lies, and just really using common sense. We just need to trust ourselves. So, and I'll finish with you with Purple, Sharon. Everybody's looking at the stay-at-home stocks and like Netflix and all this stuff. And those were doing well, but when you look at Purple and how they spend so much money into digital advertising, and now everybody's at home. And what are you doing when you're at home for a prolonged period of time? You're making your space nicer, which is why Home Depot had like good sales. And okay, maybe you're buying a mattress. You're not buying it from Sleep Number. So Purple, when I went on, Purple was up something like 300 and something % for the entire year.
Yeah.
No one was talking about Purple versus Sleep Number. And at the time, Sleep Number was down 8% for the entire year. Purple's mattresses cost less. I mean, they're still not cheap, but they cost like half the price of a Sleep Number bed.
They're not cheap. You're right about that.
We started at 700. We started at 7, and neither is Sleep Number. But so Purple's mattresses started about $700, which means okay. So in this time where people, may not want to spend a whole bunch of money, but want to have a new mattress, it's cheaper. They can get to it online.
Yeah.
You can buy a Sleep Number bed online. No, it's already ingrained in your psyche. You got to go into the store. You got to sleep on it. I mean, you have to lay on it, do the little, ticker thing, whatever it is to make it. I don't even know what it does. But all I know is that
listen, it does not wake me up with a massage.
But Purple does. And I'm not selling Purple, but it's just very interesting because I look for those opportunities. And yes, I have the confidence because I do this all the time. I've been doing this for years. But a lot of people, a lot of women they don't trust themselves. And I think, and that's really what I want what I'm trying to get across in Stock Savvy is I make these very obvious connections, and I want people, especially women, to understand. And it's like, listen, you already have this power. You already are smart. You're already a bad chick. Here's my reasoning. You can use, and you can follow my reasoning. We don't have to talk about all this stuff, but all this complicated stuff. But we can also say, listen, the stock is trading right in between this 52-week high.
Yeah.
All that means is it's not as cheap as it always has been, but it's not as expensive as it's always been. So each stock you kind of evaluate, you evaluate stocks versus other like stocks in there, against other stocks that are similar, against the benchmark, which is like the index that they're the exchange or like the index that they're listed on, and you can also evaluate them against themselves. So if the price is like $100 today, but a year ago the highest it's ever been is like $200, hey, back up. But something like Amazon that's now reached it's over $3,000 a share. The big conversation, $3,000 for one share.
3,000.
The big conversation is, how far can Netflix go? Well, my argument is this, and I talk about this on CNBC. We're in this scenario where we're in this pause. The economy is on pause. The world economy is really on pause still, even though there's a little bit of glimmer of hope that it's opening back up, but not really. We're in a second wave. It's already here. And tech has its foot on the accelerator. And how do you maneuver that given those circumstances? So that there's a lot to figure out. And Amazon is a tech company. Don't get it twisted. It's e-commerce. Yeah. I call it tech adjacent. So anything to do with tech or tech adjacent is winning right now.
Yeah. So can I still own a part of Amazon? Right. My point is like, I don't have to have $3,000 to say I own some of Amazon. I want people to know that.
Yeah. So here's the thing, these big companies, including Amazon, when you look at the mutual funds that are out there, Amazon is a part of every single mutual fund. Every large cap mutual fund has Amazon in it. So you can buy it in a mutual fund. You can also buy it in an index fund, but again, I want to caution people that right now is a stock picker's environment. Don't have all your money in an index fund. You can have a little bit in there, but then carve out some to take advantage of these opportunities. Like a purple, it's $24 a share. And
Let me say, I bought some.
$24. Yeah.
I mean, but just in general, you should never have all of your money in one area. Your portfolio should always be diversified.
Well, I meant like index funds in general. So you could have like 6 index funds and it covers.
Got it. Okay.
Right. But so index funds are basically buying the market. So when you have like, so one is like SPY. That's the index for the index fund ticker for the index, the S&P 500. S&P 500 is a measure of like the broad market.
Yeah.
Oh, if I want to buy the stock market, I buy SPY. But
so I was talking, for those who are not familiar with an index fund, I was talking to someone today, and we use a sports analogy for the index fund, right? And it's like buying a piece of the NFL, right? You're not buying a piece, you're buying a piece of the entire NFL, which has all these teams, right? Instead of just buying, say, the Dallas Cowboys, who may or may not go to the Super Bowl, right? I'm not even going to, those Cowboy fans don't even come for me. But if you buy into the NFL, you're going to have the benefit of everyone, all those teams. And so, listen, I'm here for this. I am here for this. Mm-hmm. I am a sports aficionado.
What? Ever would I have said that about you? Aficionado?
It's what I say. It's what I tell the people when it works.
All lies. All lies.
This is what I tell. Okay, maybe I tell one person, but anyway. So that's the example, right? The NFL is always going to win, right? No matter what happens, the NFL is going to win. Even if they're not playing games right now in this year, betting on the NFL is still a good bet because people are coming back for the NFL. And when they come, they're going to come like rabid dogs at this point because they haven't seen it in so long. So
they need it.
So in our conversation, we made the analogy that the NFL was analogous to an index fund. You just buy the fund instead of the individual stock. Now, to Tiffy's point, you still might want to bet on, and a separate side cash money, you still might want to bet on whoever won the Super Bowl last year. And this is where I get a little dicey on
Aficionado. Aficionado. Who won the Super Bowl last year?
I don't know who won the Super Bowl last year. I don't know who won. But they was good. No, I do. The Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's what it was.
I never said I was an aficionado. I don't do sports, so I just want to make sure that you're sure.
Tiffy, I got a question for you though, right?
Yeah.
So when you have a stock like Amazon and you're saying it's tech, right? And this is tech adjacent, and really everybody is living on Amazon right now. It's kind of hard not to, even if you're only living on it sometime, everybody's on Amazon. And it's $3,000 a share. Is it worth it to buy a portion of the share?
So now a lot of companies allow you to buy fractional shares. So like Charles Schwab allows you to buy fractional shares. There are a lot of apps out there. I'm not sure if Robinhood allows it, but there are a lot of apps. Capital allows it. Betterment, I think, does. That will allow you to buy fractional shares. Yeah. So in terms of strategy, and I'll do the disclaimer, I'm not giving investment advice. I don't know anybody out there. I don't give investment advice, number one, on a live. Right. But number two, I don't know anybody's financial situation. But when I look in terms of portfolio construction, index funds have a place, mutual funds have a place. But in this moment right now, I'm looking, and I'm about to give you an official term, I'm looking to pick up alpha whenever I can. And alpha is a measure of excess return. So let's say that like the stock market does like 2%. And there's a company or an individual stock or a mutual fund that does 5%. Their alpha, basically, that allows you to pick up 3 points of alpha. It's done over the market. See what I'm saying? So
only in a particular day or over a period of time? Either
way. So right now, what I'm doing when I say it's a stock picker's environment, it's, you've got to be careful. You've got to pick good stocks. So find the whole broad index. I don't want to buy the whole broad index. I want to pick up some more money. So I'm picking like a purple. I'm picking like a Lulu. And what that does for my portfolio is it picks up alpha, excess return over and above the index. Make sense?
Yeah. And so we can see that, like if we go to Yahoo Finance, it'll say alpha. That'll be a thing that we should see. So we got to do some math.
So let me go look. So it probably, some things might say that, and each app is different. But what you can look at is you can compare the index, S&P 500. Again, one of the tickers is SPY, which is the ETFs. Also, by the way, ETF is exchange traded fund. It's basically an index fund. It's SPY. You can compare that performance of that with what the individual stock has done. You know what I'm saying?
How it closed. It closed?
Yeah.
When you say compare.
Yes, so you can look at the performance. So I'm looking right now. So let me look at Netflix, right? Because it was just up. So I'm looking at Netflix. 5 days done, 1.2%. Okay. 3 months is done 13.59%. Year to date, 52.9%. Let's use for
year to date. So let's just talk about that. 52.9%. Can't nobody see that, Tiff?
Okay.
Can't nobody. We need you to put your phone down because can't nobody see that. All right. So 52.9% means since the beginning of the year, it has grown. It has increased in value 52.9%.
Yes.
So that means somewhere at the beginning of the year, it was somewhere around $1,500, $1,400 a share. Ah, dang.
And that's Netflix. There's some that are purple is over 117%.
That's because you was talking about them on CNBC and making their stock prices go up.
And that was crazy too, because, and you know, like the CNBC stuff is so funny. So, and shout out to like Bloomberg for like making this all happen. I was media training and it was great, and I was on Bloomberg. Let's just, if we could talk about that for a second. This has been, listen, it's a good time for Black people right now. And
no, hold on. Wait a minute. Not everywhere. Let's not get it twisted. George Floyd was killed on television. Come on.
Let's be very, very clear.
Let's be very, very clear about
we're
that.
in a time where if we speak, somebody might listen. Let's just put it that way.
We damn sure hope so. We hope so.
And so
we'll say this: they're more inclined to listen right now.
We're more inclined to listen. Yeah.
There you go.
So I was a part of a program in Bloomberg called New Voices, and this is before before like the past 4 months.
Yeah.
And so they wanted more women in financial news. So I went through media training, and I didn't think anything was going to happen. I was like, okay, this is really cool. My media training went well. And so when the protests really started to erupt, like that weekend, I'm watching, CNN and watching all these channels, and I'm like, oh. By Sunday night, I sent an email to Bloomberg. I was like, are you guys talking about this? And every company started coming out and making a bold statement.
Right. Yeah.
Even up to Sunday night. And so one of the things, and you'll hear me say this a lot, is I incorporate what's called ESG into my investment process. And not a lot of people do, but smart investors do. And so what ESG is, it stands for environmental, social, and governance. And it's taking the responsible metrics, environmental metrics of a company, social and governance metrics of a company, and looking at those responsible metrics alongside things like the stock price, the performance, the alpha, beta, standard deviation, blah, 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 and making a decision. And those metrics, if they're responsible, tend to identify companies that have sound management. And companies that have sound management tend to outperform. So it's strictly, listen, I want to save the world as much as the next person, but it's strictly a way to identify, it's almost like a little crystal ball, who's going to be a winner. So I saw all these companies start to come out and say, Black Lives Matter, like not, let's all be friends, or they're good people on both sides. No.
Right.
We unequivocally stand with Black people in America, and this stuff is unacceptable. That's never happened before.
Man, I saw that Uber email. Listen, we all use Uber, and I got the email from the Uber CEO, and I read it. I was like, I ain't ever going to Lyft. I ain't never been to Lyft. I'm going to keep riding on Uber. I don't even know who at Lyft, but Uber rocks with me. I'm rocking with Uber. I'm going with Uber. She came hard. She came with the heat, and she was like, and she didn't just have the words. She had this is the plan that we're going to do.
Yeah. Right. And
I'm here for Uber. I'm here for it.
And if you remember a couple years ago, we kind of stopped. We put Uber on pause because they had a scandal.
They did. They had a couple scandals.
Yeah, they have. So I saw all these companies coming out and making these bold statements. So I was all fired up on my couch right here, CNBC, and watching, CNN, CNBC, and I sent an email to Bloomberg, to their head of diversity and their bookers, and I said, "Are you guys looking at this? Are you guys talking about?" I said, "I don't know if we're going to talk about this week, but here's what I would say, and I want to come on and talk about this." And really, how these bold statements, the S, right? How companies are interacting socially with the public is going to affect the data. It's going to affect the G. So governance is how many Black people do you have on your board? How many Black people do you have in your C-suite and upper management? Are you going to give money to these costs? All of those things. So
I just say it's not just Black people, it's just a diverse culture.
It is a diverse culture, but I want to be very intentional by saying, right now, and really how I came to this, like my whole process, I sent them and said, are you going to be talking about Black people? Because I think that for so long we've gotten caught up in diversity, and I love diversity. I love it, and I'm a big fan of diversity, but right now we're talking about Black people in America. We're not talking about anybody else.
Yeah.
And so when I reached out to them, because those Black Lives Matter statements were not about all lives matter. And
let's not. Yes,
I know.
I'm not confused. I'm not.
I know. Listen, I know you for a long time, but so immediately, and really kudos to Bloomberg. I sent that email at like 12 midnight on a Sunday, and by Tuesday they said, we're so sorry for the delay. Tuesday morning. It's only been one day. We're so sorry for the delay in getting back to you. Yes, you're going to be on this week or next week. And so I came on and I talked about it, and I thought, okay, good. I was on TV. That was great.
Yeah.
And I thought that was good. I told all my friends. I told you guys. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome.
Watched it, learned a lot. I hadn't thought about ESG before that.
Right. And I talked about, like, I wanted to be intentional. I was like, I talked about, wait, Nike was doing this before, and Colin lost his job over this. And, I wanted to get up with him. And I was very intentional about what I said. And I said, listen, a company like Nike, I said, they're doing a lot to really win the hearts and minds of young Black boys all across the country. And I thought it was just Mike, and that was it. And I thought that was it. Maybe like in 6 months, maybe I'll be on again next year. And so what happened was CNBC called me the next week, and I said, I mean, literally, I was like, the head of news called me and said, this is CNBC head of news. I'm like, okay. And so they kind of interviewed me on the spot, and I thought it was I was like, why are you asking me at 2:00 on like a Wednesday? And they had me on, and they've had me on every single week. It's been 7-8 weeks. Then I was on Bloomberg again last week. This coming week, I'll be on CNBC on Monday, on Bloomberg on Wednesday. And I appreciate having the voice.
Yeah.
What I realize is in the halftime report, there's only one other Black woman that sometimes comes on.
Yeah.
And look at, I mean, when I'm on, I have to realize that, and I had to talk to myself, so I was like, oh, I should do this, I should do that. Those people have been on for anywhere from 10 to 15 years on the same show. So they've never really had a new person. And the response has been like phenomenal. Of course, every single time I'm on, somebody hits me up on LinkedIn, sis, love the lipstick, or you said 3 times or 4 times, you should work on that. I'm like,
getting you straight.
I'm like,
Tip, I want to talk about your ESG for a moment, because I really had an ESG moment in the grocery store yesterday. I don't buy ice cream often, but I felt like I should have something on
and you
hand.
Shouldn't. Let's just say
I shouldn't. But I don't buy it often, but let me tell you, on the front cap of the ice cream section was Ben & Jerry's.
Oh yeah, they're
Ben & Jerry's and their partnership with North Carolina A&T. Ben & Jerry's has always been very vocal about their beliefs. Ben & Jerry's has just not hidden who they are, and they do it, and they are authentic, and they were doing it long before this.
Yeah.
I bought that Ben & Jerry's.
What'd you get?
I think I got the Netflix and chilled.
Oh, I never heard of that flavor. What's that about?
They come out with stuff all the time.
Oh, okay.
Chunky Munch is my all-time favorite.
But now, they only had like 4 or 5 in the store. I mean, as long as it's got some peanut butter and some chocolate, I'm done. You know what I mean? It's my thing. But yeah.
You bring up a good point about these brands. So, and one thing I said a while ago, and I really think this speaks to the movement is, especially so in this country, all Americans aren't investors. We're just not.
Right.
But all Americans are consumers.
Absolutely.
That decision you made when you got excited about Ben and Jerry's, people are making those decisions all over.
Absolutely.
And so when it comes to something like a Facebook, the whole conversation about hate speech and misinformation, and these advertisers pulling in July, but how long can they last? Because Facebook is like the biggest thing. And I'm like, so my question was, who's going to be the first one back in? You want to be the first one on the headline saying we're going back into Facebook. They have the thing. Who's going to be the first one? It can't be Starbucks because they're on thin ice.
They've done too much. And Facebook, we know, took an incredible hit in July with the whole stopping of the advertising, the organized stopping of advertising, and they lost what, $7 billion in a day.
The facts. Yeah.
Don't. Okay. We do it all around here. Okay.
We do.
Yes, we do. I mean, so when they lost and I want to be honest with you, Tasha and I on the Facebook platform, but we made an intentional decision not to advertise during that month. We wanted to. We had some things that we needed to do and we wanted to promote, but we're like, nah, we can't do it. You know what I mean? We can't do it.
I haven't done a Facebook post in like 2 to 3 years, but I'm on it now because of this.
Well, why haven't you done a Facebook post? Because I saw your post.
Yes,
I did. I didn't even know the password
because you forgot your password.
But let me say this from a PR standpoint, because you guys know in my other life I do PR. Facebook is still the biggest boy in the game, right? They are still the biggest boy in the game. So you can sleep on them if you want, huh?
I said until they're not, and so.
But that's everything and everybody. But as long as they are, come on, let's get with it, right? And Instagram has moved up for sure, and because they've kind of mimicked more of some of the things.
But with a different market, with a different market, right? Instagram is with a different market, and you and I have seen that, right? It's a different demographic on Instagram.
It's Instagram though. Facebook owns Instagram.
Yeah, Facebook owns Instagram, but what I'm saying is Instagram got more popular by bringing on some of the amenities that Facebook offers, right? So they're no longer just pictures. Now you've got images.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Instagram
now you
Live.
can go live. Exactly.
Right. Okay.
So they altered their stuff to be more competitive. Therefore, everyone is just knocked out Twitter. We're not even talking about Twitter anymore. So while I hear you and
different demographic.
No. Twitter was the usage, right? Twitter requires far more time. Like if you want to get in a Twitter, like you got to be on a Twitter thread and you got to be engaged all day long. On Facebook and on Instagram, you can come in and out and still ain't miss nothing. Twitter, you got to be there. It's very, very time sensitive. Like what happened 2 hours ago on Twitter might as well have happened 3 years ago. So it's a different engagement, right? And so it's all about, and so that's where you get me on my PR nerd stuff, but I digress.
Yeah.
But that said, can we just talk about how this economic sort of engagement, right? I just saw the headline the other day where Facebook just deleted and removed one of Trump's tweets. Oh, well, losing $7 billion will have you do some things different.
They got a different filter that they don't put in. Hey, y'all, Jazz joined our after party. Hey, Jazz.
Hey, Jazz.
Yes.
She's like, after party? Nobody told me about the after party.
And you all know Jazz is caping for the people and talking about, in many ways like this, the wealth gap, right? And the economic gap and in our community and the disparities in our community. And this is why this conversation is important, right? Because these are things that we don't talk about in our families. These are the things that we don't talk about in our homes enough.
Right.
And so this gives us the opportunity. So, okay, if I got a couple coins and whether I have an Acorn account or I'm learning how to get into Fidelity or I'm getting a Vanguard account, What do I need to know to best position myself to take advantage of these opportunities, right? Because we've seen millionaires, multimillionaires, who only made no more than $25,000 a year. It's not how much you make, it's how you save and how you use those resources.
That's right.
Yeah. And so we're
into listening to some people that work for the government, right? And we know that our public servants, that's our government workers, our civil servants, don't make a lot of money, but they've been able to leverage the stock market and how they saved and how they lived to change their life, right? So it's not about, like you said, how much you make, it's about how you use it.
Yeah,
absolutely. And listen, there have been so many things that have been orchestrated to keep us in a certain position. How dare we not share what we know? Like, I had a very interesting conversation with a young man over Christmas. I think, Tasha, I may have told you about this. I think the young man had just finished his PhD. I don't know. We're at the Christmas table. I had someone coax me into a conversation in with him. I don't know what they wanted to see, but he just started saying all kinds of ridiculous stuff. And I'm like, really? Okay. Can someone get me some more food? Then he says, well, I want to know more about money. So I'm like, okay. So he starts telling me this really crazy scheme that he has, this idea of a business, which is based absolutely on nothing solid, makes no sense whatsoever. I'm not even going to share it because I would hate to embarrass the man if he should ever watch this. But anyway, he was like, well, we don't talk about money. We don't talk about money. And I'm like, well, you need to change your friend set. My friends and I, we talk about money, right? If y'all don't talk about politics and what's going on in the world, you need to change your friend set, because trust and believe, we are talking about it. We are absolutely doing it. And so it's important that we have these conversations for sure.
Yeah. Jazz is here. She says, if you buy the brand, buy the stock.
That's it.
Every one of us.
Exactly.
Run. I saw your last post about your new man in your life. We all should have stock in Amazon.
Yeah. I mean,
come on.
That's what I say. Right. I mean, if you're gonna buy the shoes, the bag, the brand, you need to buy the stock. She's absolutely right.
And now that you can get it as you put it, as a fractional, you can buy fractional stocks.
Yeah.
Listen, get in where you fit in.
Yeah.
Yeah. A 10%, 20, or was it 52% increase is a 52% increase.
I mean,
whether it's $10 or $10,000, right?
What else is doubling your money?
Right.
What else is going to do it? Yeah. I love it.
I'll put out a little stat. So around maybe it was February, March, maybe around March, April. So there are these. So in Stoc Savvy, we call them Wall Street nerds, which is analysts.
Yeah.
And these analysts basically rate all these stocks. They give it like a buy, meaning you should go buy it, or sell, meaning you should sell it, or neutral thing, like if you have it, just hold it, don't do anything with it.
Right.
And so, we kind of rise and fall with what the analysts say at different companies. So the analysts at Goldman Sachs, the analysts at Morgan Stanley, at JP, and they gave it a buy, they gave it a sell. It's big news. And so in our investment community, we pay attention to that. So data shows now that in the first quarter, I think through the second quarter, the analysts have gotten it. They got it wrong.
Wow.
Crazy wrong. So analysts will say different, but they look at the consensus of all the analysts. Usually the consensus is analysts. You don't have one analyst over here and one analyst over here and one over here. They got it wrong. And who got it right? Retail investors, meaning just the average person got it right.
Wow.
It's a stock picker's environment. And so I'm looking at all of the data that's coming out during this time period when we're in this crazy environment where we've never been in before. So the average American is picking the best stocks. is not picking the best stocks. I mean, except for me, because I consider myself like kind of normal. Like I'm not a Wall Street nerd.
I definitely consider you different from the analysts, right? And so what I love about seeing you on CNBC is that you have the freedom to say things that they can't.
They give me a lot of freedom. And again, like I want people to understand that a lot of people pay to be on TV. I haven't paid to be on TV. I haven't on CNBC it's the halftime report. On Bloomberg, there are a couple of different shows. Alex Steele, I'll be on her show again. I am really, all this is happening because, quite honestly, there are people, and in particular women, who want to see me succeed. Producers, anchors that are like, that chick, she's going to be on the show, and are putting me back on. So I'm extremely blessed. But you're right. I'm a little bit different than the traders on CNBC. They're like, I'm position.
But hold up, but Tiff, I can't let it just rock like that, all right? Because I have to say, you are qualified, right? It's not just they're just putting you on because they're like you.
No.
But I have to say that because people think we get a pass just because of the color of our skin and not because we're qualified and we haven't put in the work. And I have to make sure that no one walks away from this chat thinking you're on television because someone did you a favor. Now you had access, but you were prepared to take out that opportunity.
Yeah. But I think, the point that you were saying about, as a stock picker's environment, like you live a life of a stock picker, right?
Yeah.
And so you have both perspectives, the analyst perspective and the stock picker's perspective. And so I think you bring a really great balance to the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and thank you guys for that. But I also think that, and this is what I try to do with like my clients, when, just like working, is just speak to people in a way that they can understand.
Yeah,
right.
Fortunate enough that I tend to, most of the people that I interact with on a daily basis are smart people. I can't speak to anybody else. And if you not using these crazy terms, most people understand. And I would rather, educate someone or have someone have an interaction with me where they walk away saying to themselves, wow, I now understand that because of Tiffany, than hold the information, have like the death grip on the information to say, you got to pay me for this. And I've seen that so many times before, and it really upset me so much that I'm like, you know what? I'm going to, if you have an interaction with me, I'm going to explain it to you. And what really turns me on is that light bulb in people's heads, especially women, that when they're like, oh, wait, I understand that. Thank you. Yeah. I never understood that before, but thank you for explaining.
Well, you're doing it.
You're doing it.
Is doing that.
It's doing it. But I have to, but Tiff, that like brings me to a story. Like when my mom was very good about wanting me to be financially prepared. She was a single mom for most of the time. And, you have an only daughter. You want to make sure your daughter is prepared. And so she introduced me to a financial advisor. And I mean, I was probably in college, right? And I remember, Gail was on it for sure, right? And so she introduced me to this woman, and she was an Asian woman, and I only say this for this distinction. And so she spoke to me like, why don't you already know this, right?
Wow.
Right? It was very difficult. Like, I'm in college. I make maybe $3 an hour. You know what I mean? I'm doing free interns over the summer to get. And so she was very aggressive, very strong, very like she spoke to me as if I knew things. And I felt, quite frankly, uncomfortable letting her know that I didn't know what she was talking about. So I simply didn't say much, but eventually I just didn't keep up with what she said, and the account was lost. Right now, that leads me to two things. One, had I felt comfortable and I felt like I had an ally, I'd be an incredibly wealthy woman today. Okay. Incredible. I would have been.
Everything she said, because I know you're disciplined. You're a disciplined saver.
Yeah, I mean, and so I would have been incredibly okay, we'd have a whole different situation here, right? I'd be in front of my yacht right now. But the other thing is that that's actually kind of what kind of led to us creating Accountability Queens, right? We wanted to create a safe space where we could come together and talk about money, right? And we didn't feel judged. We were all women who were educated. We had different levels of access and experience with money, but didn't feel comfortable, because people were like, well, you should already know that. I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know it.
Yeah.
I don't know the difference between the APR and the interest rate. What can you tell me? And can I not be stupid for asking the question? Can I just need to know? Yeah. Yeah. And so that's great that you had that approach.
You know what else too? And I think you're absolutely right. And I think, one of the reasons why, getting back to why I started Stoc Savvy, is when I looked around, even in addition to the research that women make better investors than men, when I looked around at who was talking to women, because I didn't want to do it if people were already doing it. I'm like, okay, maybe I just don't know. And I looked at, and not to call anybody out, but I looked at the Susie Ormans of the world, and I looked at even, people that were in more local markets, and the conversation directed at women was always around saving and sacrificing and shaming. It was, you shouldn't buy that. Come on, you need to be disciplined. And it was never around stocks. It was all around finance and budgeting. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, because listen, I would appreciate a good budgeting tip as like the next person. But then I looked at when people were talking to men, and it was like, oh, here's the hot stock and here's why. And I was like, those are different messages. And then I got really offended, and I said, wait a second, I'm a single mom. I have my career. I've worked very hard in my career. I'm the sole breadwinner in my house. I'm holding it down in my household. I'm raising a human on my own.
Yeah.
Why are you assuming that my situation is messy, that I'm making bad choices? You don't know me. Now listen, I always do a better job, but you don't know me. And that was incredibly offensive to me. And then the messaging was around sacrifice. And I'm like, that doesn't seem fun at all. And I'm all about fun. I want to be excited about the money. Don't say you have to, you can't buy this, you can't buy this, you can't buy that, and just sit in that for a year and then see what you have. That sounds horrible to me.
Yeah.
But when you start changing the narrative and say, hey, sis, this was up 300%. You might want to get in on that. I'm like,
listen, and then show what you can do with what you've made, right? So instead of saying, sacrifice and save this, right, so that you could buy a car, have a down payment on a house, use that money, Sharon, right? Invest in it, right? And stack that, the dividends that you're making from that investment, and pull that out and buy your car, or buy your house, or do whatever, right?
I don't help people. I mean, listen, there are probably better people to budget. I just want to help people, in particular women, learn how to buy stock. That's what I want to help them do. And
I love it. I love it.
Yeah. And it's like, we always find a way to get what we want. We find a way to get
always.
We find a way to get always. And I'm saying a Louis Vuitton bag, bare minimum is $2,000. And LVMH stock, if you really look at what LVMH is the company that owns Louis Vuitton. It's Louis Vuitton, Moet, Hennessy, and yes, they do own Moet and Hennessy, Moet, whatever. They also own Sephora. They own so much Chandon, everything. It's like
I'd rather put that $2,000 into that than into that bag.
Oh, absolutely. And by the way, a share of that stock, because it's not listed on a U.S. exchange. It's listed in different exchanges across the world. But most the shares you can get about $300.
Yeah.
So if you
Listen, we ain't going nowhere to carry a person out right now anyway.
Well, but Tiffy makes a very good point about the sacrifice conversation, right? So I've been sharing with Tasha these YouTube videos of this couple who retired at age 39. Tasha referenced it earlier. They were government workers. They're millionaires. They've retired. And they just had this whole YouTube channel on how they invested, what they did, how they budgeted, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm here for the tips. Let me see. I'm all my notes. I'm sending out the links. Hey, watch this, watch this. But here's what I understood about their investment strategy, which was very good. I'm not going to take anything away from it. But they had some elements that I really wasn't down for. They were all about, like, she didn't get her hair done. Like, I know she didn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, get her hair done.
Was she black or white?
These are black people.
These are black people. Right. Like, they was on. Listen, they did the crazy type.
They will always be done. There will always be a line item in my budget for my nails. I'm not budgeting.
There's a different sacrifice for everybody.
Everybody, exactly. There's a different. So I respected their game. I mean, they've moved to Portugal, right? And so they were like proud of. They were like, well, in our house, we believe in minimalism.
Listen, sidebar. I might pass on my hair and nails for a few years if I get to move to Portugal. I'm just saying. and live like they do. I'm just saying.
Listen.
If there's a plan, Tiffany, right? If there's a plan, I might go with the plan.
My plan. I'm sorry, 2 seconds. My plan is to just make more money because I'm not getting rid of this. When the world is like, listen, life is hard, especially for a single mom with her own business. And when stuff gets, I'm going to curse.
Cheers to you, Tiffy, on that, for sure. Cheers. Yeah, for you. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
When stuff gets real, and I look down at my nails, and I'm like, whew. All right, let's keep it moving. That's peace. It gives me joy.
Right. And for each of us, it's different, right?
Yeah.
You know, and we all are in different, we're all friends, but we all have very different lifestyles. Yeah. Tiff is a single mom. Tasha is married with 3 kids. I'm single, living life living my life, right? Like it's golden. Hey.
Right? Golden. Show your arm. Let me see your arm. Oh, okay.
I got 2 watches on right now.
2 watches.
I'm trying to decide which one I'm sending back. I said Amazon.
Because she can afford to buy both of them.
I could. Well,
wait, you would say that. Tasha, I've been using I got an Apple Watch, and I've been using like my heart rate monitor when I do my runs every day.
I've been watching your 5 miles. I see you, boo. I see you.
I have finally joined the game.
Shout out. We got another person in the after party. Contella, this is wonderful. You all are financially fabulous. I love it.
Hey,
I see you, Contella.
Trying to be.
Hey, I mean, so going back to like the comfortability, we all have different levels of comfortability, right? My goal was I don't want debt, right? And I guess this is something that my mom put in me, like if I had to go out and God forbid I lose my job and I needed to get, half my salary, I could manage my life. No matter what, I can always manage my life. And that
fund.
Yeah.
They call it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's the FU fund that is also not being in debt, because you can have an FU fund, but you don't want it taken care of debt. So that was my priority. Again, I was raised by a single mom. And so that was what was important to me, was making sure I got there. And that whole credit game is a whole nother situation that we'll talk about in another.
It's a game. It's a game. That's a whole other conversation.
It's a racket. It's a racket.
It's a game.
I was like,
yeah, don't even start that.
We're not going to do that.
Yeah, don't start that.
But Tiff, I do like what you're telling women, right? Which is to, well, as Jasmine came in and chimed in, buy what you know. And listen, if you're buying and if you're using Amazon every day, because I have a relationship through the window with my Amazon delivery person.
I know the sound when I'm on a Zoom meeting. I know the sound.
Listen.
On Prime truck.
Listen, there were 2 Prime trucks in front of my house one day. I was like, who's coming for me? Who? Who's for me? Right? And so I may not be able to afford, and this is for anyone watching, I may not be able to afford the $3,000 a share, but maybe I can get, 1/5 of a share. Like, because if it goes up another 52% or splits, guess what? I still win.
52% on your dollar.
The Apple split, though. Apple just did that.
Yeah.
Apple is a part of those stocks, those 5 to 6 stocks that are driving the return of the S&P. So what did Apple do the other day? They're like, oh, we're going to split our stock. And so what does that allow individuals to do? Is now it's more affordable.
Yeah.
Like, let's just buy up some Apple shares.
Yeah.
So stock split. Yeah.
I mean, and
all right.
What'd you say, Tosh?
No, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say that I want everyone to just look at the market, look what's happening, read, pay attention.
Read.
The money never leaves the market. It just goes to a different place.
Yes.
That's it. It's
Tiffany,
not all doom and gloom.
I want you to give us like a secret tip. Not like, of course you're not giving advice, but just say,
You're not giving advice.
Hey, if you happen to be looking, look at this.
Do you want a name, or do you want just
yes.
in general?
No, we want
a name.
Give us
I want
a name
specific.
I want both.
Specific to go into Vanguard tonight and be like, boom, 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 boom.
So I can give you a sneak peek of. So I'm writing Stoc Savvy, which is going to be on Monday. So everybody should, if you're not subscribed, you should subscribe.
StocSavvy.com.
StocSavvy.com, StocSavvy. And I'm going to talk about financials. So a lot of banks have been suffering now. Their stocks have been suffering. And so I'm differentiating between commercial banks like Wells Fargo that I talked about on CNBC and investment banks like JP Morgan. And so those are like big ones. But I'm going to be talking, when Stoc Savvy comes out on Monday morning, about some other investment banks, some lesser known investment banks that, are doing really, really well. And because I like them because they have diversified revenue streams. So what they're not linked to is consumers. So like individual loans. So while Wells Fargo didn't do well, their customers, a big part of their business is everyday people who, a lot of which have lost their job. They can't pay their mortgage, they can't pay their car payment, and so they're stuck with those loans, and they're in the thick of it. Versus the JP Morgan, where most of their revenue comes from trading volume, comes from investment banking. So I'm going to be talking about 3 investment banking stocks, stocks of investment banking companies that you may not know. So but
Monday,
Stoc Savvy comes out Monday about like 7 o'clock.
Monday morning, if you sign up for it, at least by tomorrow afternoon, you'll get it. But I'll tell you the other big tip, and it's going to sound like fluff, but I really mean this, is to really trust yourself. I mean, I just believe that women are just naturally just smart people. We have good instincts. If you feel like you like a company, one of the things I do all the time, I don't know everything, is I might find a brand, and not everything is a publicly traded company, but I go look it up. Who owns such and such? So maybe there's a distributor. So there's a little company called Shea Moisture. You may have heard of it. So Shea Moisture is not a public company. However, they have a distributor called Sundial. And so there's a way that you can invest in those companies. And so when you really get nerdy with it, and this is what I really want people to know, when you first starts from just paying attention to stocks and buying stocks, but you can also get into public offerings when a company, a brand goes public. You may not be able to have access to the stock when it does that transaction called an IPO, but the day it starts trading, you can buy it. And if you hold on to it, in a lot of cases, there are these success stories. And then another thing is, once you get up to a certain amount of wealth, you can also invest in private equity. So you can invest in a lot of these brands that are not publicly traded. So when Uber, people don't, I hope people realize.
Oh, that's what private equity is. Oh.
So let's say Uber just went public like a year ago. Uber and Lyft went public a year ago.
Yeah.
So every day to Uber is, prior to Uber going public, they still raised money. But they had private money. That's private equity. So the deal is, and there's this really this story, I don't know if it's famous, but I wrote about it in Stoc Savvy, that Uber, Uber's a really famous company, clearly. Uber at one point asked Beyonce to perform at an employee event. And she said, don't pay me in cash, pay me in Uber stock.
Didn't she do it? Whew, she was
a private company. So Beyonce had shares of Uber just
before it went public. Wow.
Before it went public, and when the day it went public, it was millions upon millions upon millions of dollars.
Woo-wee!
And so not everybody can play in that market.
Right.
But I like to give people aspirational goals. It's not just stocks. Here's where you start, and you start to form your own reasoning and your own criteria for figuring out whether you want to invest in a stock or not. And there are lots of private opportunities. I mean, be careful, but there are lots of private opportunities. So when you get to that level of wealth, you can invest in an Uber before it goes public.
That's good.
And in the meantime, you can buy that fractional share of Amazon. And I'm not, listen, I am by no means a financial advisor. I don't know no one at Amazon except for the man who drops off stuff, which seems like every day. I think he loves me. We don't have to talk about that. I'm just saying. We're talking about, we might have a situation going on. It's special. But I say that to say, going back to your point, invest in what you know. Yeah. Invest in what you know. Invest in what you like. Pay attention to what's going on in the world. And don't get caught up in the news that the market is crashing. The money goes somewhere. The money always goes somewhere. Where is it going?
And I don't want to cut you off, but don't get caught up in the news that the market is crashing. When the market goes down, that means the price goes down. So I want you to pay attention to that language. If you're in the mall at your favorite store and the price goes down, you get excited.
Yeah.
That means it's on sale. But yet when the stock market goes down,
we get nervous.
But that's the time to buy because it's all on sale. It's the same concept.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Okay, again, I told everybody when Tiffy was coming on, she was going to drop some jewels. We have done this AQ chat happy hour. Everybody put their glasses up. I want to thank everybody who came in.
Thank you, Tiffany.
Thank you, Tiffany. This is completely impromptu. It was just too good. We had the whippersnapper on us today.
I learned from the best. Let me just say that.
And so we're definitely going to have Tiffy back. I want everyone to have a great weekend. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Be safe and look at things differently, right? Look at the opportunity and everything and all that's going crazy. Look at the opportunity. I love you guys. I'll see you guys
Follow Accountability Queen so you get notifications.
Yes.
We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. And follow Stoc Savvy.
We're on YouTube too.
Yeah, we're on YouTube.
YouTube. That thing. Bye, guys.